These aren't just stories, they're real. The kind of real that breathes in the shadows of the night. A little girl clutching a haunted porcelain doll in an attic filled with secrets, and a deserted highway where a ghostly presence waits in the back seat, watching your every move. Two terrifying tales, one warning: no matter where you are, you can't escape them. Are you ready to face your fears? Let's begin with the first story. Saran and her husband Michael were thrilled when they found their dream home, a charming 1920s Victorian-style house tucked in a quiet neighborhood. Its vintage appeal enchanted them: stained glass windows, creaky wooden floors, and an attic that Saran imagined transforming into her personal reading nook. But their excitement was short-lived. From their first night, Saran sensed something off. It started with faint noises, soft footsteps echoing above their bedroom as if someone were pacing in the attic. At first, they dismissed it as an old house settling, but soon a cold breeze would sweep through their room, and an unshakable feeling of being watched settled over Saran. One evening, after hearing what sounded like a child's laughter from above, Saran's curiosity overcame her fear. Determined to get answers, she grabbed a flashlight and climbed the narrow, creaky staircase to the attic. The air was heavy with the scent of dust and decay. The beam of her flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing old trunks, cobwebbed furniture, and stacks of forgotten books. In the far corner, something caught her eye: a small wooden chest with a rusted lock. Her hands trembled as she pried it open. Inside, she found photographs of a young girl with braided hair, a delicate porcelain doll with lifelike eyes, and a diary. The diary belonged to Abigail, a 10-year-old girl who lived in the house during the 1940s. As Saran read the faded pages, her stomach twisted. Abigail's entries spoke of her stepmother's cruelty and how she often locked Abigail in the attic for days on end. Abigail's final entry sent chills down Saran's spine. "It's so cold. I don't think I'll ever leave this attic, but at least I have Dolly to keep me company." That night, the hauntings escalated. Doors slammed shut on their own, objects moved inexplicably, and Saran began hearing whispers in the dead of night. A child's voice would call her name, soft yet insistent. One night, she woke to find Abigail's ghost standing at the foot of her bed. Her hollow eyes burned with sadness, and her bony finger pointed toward the attic. Terrified, Saran and Michael called a paranormal investigator. After an intense investigation, they uncovered the truth. Abigail had been locked in the attic by her stepmother during a bitter winter and had died of starvation. The doll was her only companion. The investigator performed a ritual to free Abigail's spirit. Afterward, the haunting ceased, but Saran could never forget the hollow eyes of the little girl who had watched her from the shadows. Jake was a seasoned truck driver, used to lonely highways and long nights, but there was one route he avoided whenever possible: a desolate stretch of road infamous for eerie tales and unexplained incidents. One foggy night, Circumstances forced him to take it. The fog was so thick that Jake could barely see beyond the truck's headlights. The CB radio crackled to life, startling him. A calm but chilling voice whispered, "Don't look in your mirror." Jake chuckled nervously, assuming it was a prank from another trucker, but his smile vanished when he glanced in the rearview mirror. There, in the back seat of his cab, sat a woman. Her pale face was framed by dripping, matted hair, and her hollow eyes stared into his. Panicked, Jake slammed on the brakes and spun around. The back seat was empty. Shaken, he chalked it up to exhaustion and continued driving. But moments later, the CB radio crackled again. "She's getting closer." This time, when Jake glanced at the mirror, the woman was inches behind him. Her bony hand reached for his shoulder. Heart pounding, Jake floored the gas pedal, desperate to escape. The woman's whisper filled the cab. "You left me behind." A memory flooded Jake's mind. Years ago, he had witnessed a horrific car accident on this very stretch of road. The car had plunged into a ravine, and though he'd considered stopping to help, he'd convinced himself it was too dangerous and drove on. Could this be her? Jake finally pulled into a truck stop, his hands shaking as he recounted the story to the locals. An elderly man listened intently before nodding solemnly. "You saw Clara," he said. "She's been haunting this highway for decades. They say she's a hitchhiker who died in a crash after no one stopped to help her. Now she's looking for the one who left her behind." Jake never drove that route again. But sometimes on foggy nights he swears he hears her voice through the static of his CB radio. "You left me behind." If these stories sent chills down your spine, remember, they're not just tales, they're warnings. Because in the shadows of the night, some things are more real than you'd like to believe. Please subscribe to my channel for more spine-tingling stories. Thank you for watching, and sweet dreams.